But the unfortunate fact is the damage to minority-owned businesses is just one way communities of color have been hit especially hard in this pandemic. In education, Black and Latinx students are projected to fall even further behind white students in the era of distance and hybrid learning. And of course, in healthcare, Black Americans are dying of coronavirus at nearly 2.5 times the rate of their white neighbors, at last count from the COVID tracking project. But two local political strategists argue as these racial gaps get bigger, so does the opportunity to address them. They lay out their case in one of a new collection of essays called Turnout, Mobilizing Voters in an Emergency. I'm joined now by one of the co-authors, Wilnelia Rivera, founder of Rivera Consulting and former chief strategist for Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley's campaign. Wilnelia, it's great to see you as always.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Jim.
Let me make sure I have the thesis right. The coronavirus creates an opportunity for a game-changing expansion of the progressive base, an historic realignment of the electorate. That's essentially what you're suggesting, right?
That is essentially what we're suggesting. Yes, correct.
Why? Why?
Well, this is why we're suggesting it. First, when you said a progressive realignment. The one thing I will correct on that, to be clear, that I think it's important for everyone, is that part of this realignment includes likely Democratic voters that we've seen in the past, right? So we're talking about millennials, Black women, Latino folks, Gen Zers, right? So that's known as a progressive movement, and it's growing, right? But what we also have, and it's been happening since the election of Trump, and it peaked in 2018, is that we have a block of Republican-leaning, suburban college-educated women that have been moving towards the Democratic Party, even though they haven't necessarily in the past had policy alignment with the party. The divisiveness, that Trump has fermented in the last few years. We saw the results of that in 2018 when we saw the blue wave. No one predicted it. Yeah. We won suburban parts of the country, and we also won in places that there were Democratic primaries. So it's about the future of the party. So they were different, right? So we're waging this dual fight. And what COVID did is take those same factors and just exasperate them. Because now what we have is the same coalition of people being impacted by all the factors that you've been talking about.
But just you corrected me, I'll try to correct you, or at least your correction of me if I can, is you're suggesting, though, that the current crisis created in so many fashions for coronavirus and the commonality of those inequities is something that could lure non-traditional progressives or people who don't see themselves as progressive to progressive solutions, correct? You're nodding in agreement. So if that's the case, I heard almost the exact same things, and you might even have said the exact same things not too long ago when Barack Obama was elected. Didn't happen there, did it?
When Barack Obama, in 2012 or 2008?
Well, I'd say all the way back in 2008, whenever it was.
What I would say was a different. It's really hard to compare the political environment of where the country was in 2008, where we are now in 2020. But I do think the important thing for people to remember is that during the decade that the Obama administration was in power, 8 to 10 years, we lost over 1,000 seats across the country that weren't connected to the electoral college. We have a majority of states in this country that have Republican-held legislatures, or a trifecta, which means that you have a Republican in governor, Republican in both sides of the chamber. So what we've had happen over the course of the last 20 years, and it's happened during the Obama administration, is that we've had Republicans effectively flip the map on us and flip the power map. And what coronavirus has exposed is the extent to which how the GOP has control over the country. The fact that the national GOP has effectively not responded to a national crisis, and there's no way to hold them accountable besides this election, tells us everything about the power they've been able to amass.
So, but can't you make a more powerful argument that with the selection of Joe Biden rather than, let's say, Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders, that the likelihood of some coalescing around a common set of proposals is more likely to happen around moderate proposals rather than progressive ones?
Well, what I would say, and this is, Catherine Adam, who's my co-author, was with me, what she would really speak to on this is that yes, we can talk about proposals, but what the Biden-Harris ticket needs to understand is that right now we need to talk about the values that are missing right now in our country. The lack of empathy and the deficit of trust that got us here, and that doesn't allow us to have a frank conversation about where we are as a country and where we need to go. And I understand that progressive proposals and moderate proposals are very distinguishable in terms of what they represent. But that is also why Biden selected someone like Kamala Harris, who is a little bit more ideologically to the left of him, but not too left, right? So I do think that there is more work that the party has to do over time. But right now, the party needs to be able to speak to the country, both those that have been card-carrying Democrats and those that might be able to think differently in an environment like this.
But he also, while he chose Kamala Harris, and I agree with your analysis, he also chose, let's say, John Kasich rather than Ayanna Pressley to speak at the Democratic National Convention. I assume there's one side of you that made unhappy, and the other side of you says that's coalition building. Which one out?
I mean, look, what I would say is that I would say the third that is a combination of all this, actually. What this shows is that the Democratic Party that is represented by Biden at this moment still has a tepid commitment towards this progressive wing of the party and how it's developing and what it's demanding for. So I want to be clear. I'm not naive. I understand that. However, that's why in our book and what we're suggesting as a strategy is that we can't use the same, let's get everybody to the middle to try to win on election day. That's not enough in this environment, particularly in an environment where our elections have been upended in terms of how we're voting, and in an election where, let's be honest, we're up against the Trump campaign, who is unapologetically running a race-baiting, white nationalist campaign to get his base and his votes to come out. So we need Democrats to be bold and seize this moment and be unafraid to have a coalition that might look different than what you've had in the past. But let's be honest, when was the last time Congress has been able to get us anything with the current coalition? It's been a long time. So right now in this environment, what we really need to understand is that this is a reconfiguration of America, an opportunity for us to have a conversation around what does it mean to trust each other? And what does it mean to take care of each other? And what are the kinds of policy solutions that folks like Biden and others can offer? And that's why this has to be all hands on deck. Because let's be honest, the recent ABC poll that just came out this week has the Democratic likely voters only at about 42% of enthusiasm. That's a problem. We're not excited. And not that people should be. We are in national mourning and we haven't even called it that, right? So I say that because I don't want to be naive, but I also think that Democrats need to understand, and to use a former boss of mine's words, Governor Patrick, grow some spine and let's show it. And this is the moment to do it. And if it's not Biden that can do it, let's let Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley go to the states that make the most sense. Let's go for Wisconsin. Let's go for Georgia, and let's send the right messengers.
You just succeeded Val Patrick on this show, by the way. Wilnelia Rivera, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Jim.